Hello, all creative people! My name is Tina Sharapova, and I am a textile designer and an art teacher. This is the second week of our artistic challenge Inspiration is Here, and today we will talk about Sandro Botticielli. He was one of the most famous artists of Italian Renaissance. His real name was Alessandro di Mariani di Vanni Filippelli. Botticelli was his nickname, and actually it literally meant little barrel. So maybe little Sandro was a chubby child, but he decided to keep this nickname, and now we know him as Sandro Botticielli. He was born in 1445 in Italy, Florence, to the family of a tanner. He started as a goldsmith apprentice, but very soon his father noticed little Sandro's talent and brought him to the studio of Fra Filippo Lippi for 3 years. Fra Filippo Lippi was one of the leading painters in Florence of that time, and he had good connections with a wealthy Medici family. So eventually, young Sandro Botticielli got a studio in one of the Medici palaces, and he befriended Lorenzo de' Medici, the young heir to the dynasty. Having such a patron was very important for the young artist, as he received commissions from the Medici family and from their friends, and hanging out with Medici family in 15th century was like playing golf with Bill Gates now, or maybe drinking smoothies with Angelina Jolie. Sandro Botticielli was never married, but there were rumors that he was in love with a married noblewoman, Simonetta Vespucci, who died pretty young. And some people say that she was the model for The Birth of Venus and some other paintings. The artist asked to be buried at her feet in the Church of All Saints in Florence. Botticelli worked with various media. He created frescoes, painting on the walls, and he worked with oils and tempera on wooden panels, but also he was one of the first artists to explore canvas. That was much more convenient and lightweight than using wooden panels. For example, The Birth of Venus had a size of 170 centimeters to 280. It's almost 3 meters long, and wooden panels of this size will be too heavy. Sandro Botticielli started with religious works, Adoration of the Magi. Let's have a closer look at this piece. Historically, they should be just Mary, Joseph, and little Jesus, and 3 Magi that came following the guiding star, and maybe some local shepherds. But here we can see a big crowd in bright clothes and some picturesque ruins around. Most of these people were members of Medici family or their friends. Cosimo de' Medici was kneeling in front of Virgin Mary. His son Piero was in the middle in a red mantle, other relatives around. Some people think that Botticelli even added himself on the far right in a yellow mantle. Although the painting doesn't look deep, everybody is in the foreground like on the theater stage. The linear perspective is very precise, and human figures have vivid facial expressions, postures, and their clothes are rich and bright. In other religious paintings, Botticelli gained his distinct style. Elongated faces and bodies with very calm facial expressions, like the characters are preoccupied with some thoughts or concerns. You can see gentle outlines and subtle color changes with tiny details on the clothes and hair. Botticelli was one of the first painters to create a series of secular works, like portraits or mythological scenes, like Birth of Venus or Primavera. In this portrait, you can see a young man holding a Medici medal. There is a distant landscape behind him, depicted as if from the high point of view. His red hat and dark green robe creates contrast between the top part and bottom part of the painting. The man's face in the middle is painted with delicate earthy tones without dark shadows. His features are emphasized with gentle lines. Here is another example of a portrait painted by Botticelli in his late years. A famous Florentine poet who passed away almost 200 years before this painting was created is shown in a red robe, red hat, and a laurel wreath as a symbol of a poet. By the way, Botticelli was so inspired by Dante's works, so he created a number of illustrations for his Divine Comedy. During his most productive years, Botticelli worked on a lot of commissions, mostly from the church, and he spent almost a year in Vatican creating beautiful frescoes for the Sistine Chapel with a number of other famous Florentine artists of that time. But later, he created more pieces on mythological topics, ordered by Medici family. Birth of Venus is one of the most famous paintings of Italian Renaissance. You've probably all seen her many times in many different ways. The Venus face was at the Adobe Illustrator starting page for almost 20 years, from 1986 to 2003, when she was replaced with a stylized flower. And here, you can see how the designers changed the features, details, structure of the painting, adding more or less grain to the shadows, playing with the hair curls, adjusting the image to their needs. The story of the Venus being born from the sea foam came from the writings of Homer. So here we can see the Venus herself standing on a big shell. The guy on the left is Zephyrus, the god of west wind, holding a nymph Chloris, or another version says her name is Aura, and blowing the wind to guide Venus to the shore. The lady on the right is Pomona, the goddess of spring, holding a colorful cloak to cover Venus. The goddess of love looks very gentle, even fragile. Her feet hardly stand on the shell, she's almost floating in the air. Skin tones are painted very light, with thin outlines contouring her body from the background. The landscape doesn't look very realistic, it's more of a theater curtain to show the characters. Some says that this scene was an artist's interpretation of an idea of divine love. Another famous symbolical painting was Primavera, or Spring. It was painted on a wooden panel, probably for a specific interior in one of the Medici's villas. It also looks like a theater scene, with very little perspective, but with more people on the foreground. Here we can see the Venus in the middle, fully dressed this time, with a blindfolded Cupid, her son, above her, showing that love is blind. To the far left, Mercury, easily identified by the winged sandals, reaching for the orange. To the right of Mercury, there is a group of three graces presenting three female virtues: chastity, beauty, and love. To the far right, you can see Zephyrus again, chasing the nymph Chloris, who transformed into a Flora, the spring goddess, after they married. Flora is shown as a graceful lady throwing flowers around, representing springtime and fertility. All the symbols show that this painting might be a wedding present, wishing happy life, love, and fertility to the family. There are whole books deciphering the meanings of tiniest details on this painting, so I will leave it to you, as we can spend hours checking every flower on the ground. By the way, it was said that there are around 150 kinds of plants on this painting. You might even be able to identify a few.
Oh my goodness, Botticelli is awesome. I love these angels and these long-haired women and flowers, but I cannot imagine. How can I draw something like that? I cannot make a portrait like he did. How can I use all these beautiful things for my inspiration?
You don't have to be the second Botticelli. Don't try to copy it, but you can copy some details or composition. For example, you can make a portrait in Botticelli style. Number one, you will need a light background with some distant landscape and person in full profile with hair braided, dress of a solid color. Or it can be a man in 3/4 and red hat and dark clothes. They should look relaxed, chill, no dark shadows on the face, but light outlines. Also, you can notice that Botticelli had a very distinct manner of painting eyes, with longer inner corners, almost no eyelashes. What if you will make a pendant with an eye if you are a jewelry artist? Do you like flowers? Check Primavera's flower carpet. Create your own garden with your own flowers. Turn these trees or roses, lilies into embroidery patterns, or they can be great patterns for socks or a plate design. What if you're doing animation? Check Monty Python's Dancing Venus. It is hilarious. To wrap things up, I can tell you that inspiration can come from anywhere. These Botticelli's masterpieces are full with beautiful details, flowers, trees, decorations. So use them wisely, use them in your style. And it's absolutely fine to start with sketching and copying some details. So you will understand how did he do that. So let's explore that, share your works, and see you soon. Bye.